Welcome to Photoshop's Lesson 2, Combining and Masking, Part 1. Hello, so I just want to show you a couple of pictures that are kind of fun that people have created in Photoshop by combining imagery to make a new image. So this one is a photo of a girl against a plank kind of wall, and they just kind of masked the little sections in the plank so it feels like she's being cut apart, which you can see from a distance. It's quite dynamic. Another one is blending them and using opacity to kind of have it float into the next image almost. And finally, to combine two of them together to create a dynamic image. So here are some of the things that you can do in Photoshop, and the next video is going to show you how I made a story out of an image. And then finally there'll be one more where you'll watch where you can build that image with me. Alright, thanks. I have this file that I have online. It's the Photoshop Lesson 2 demo. Please grab that. Follow along. It's really important that you watch all these demos so that you have a better ability to do the final. So first we're going to work on the foreground folder, and each one of these have different images already collected for you, so you don't need to get any images. Just open up this file. Start with the background copy. We're going to back front, but we want to head out so it looks like her head's coming through pattern, like she's a ghost. Okay, so the first thing is grab the layer that she is on. That's that layer 0, and we're going to use the quick selection tool, and you're just going to draw on it all the background. Make sure you get those highlights. Make sure you get really close. And then you want to use the magnifying glass to get in between those lenses. Back onto the quick. Remember, you have your plus and your minus. You could quickly select those. And I think that's good enough. We're going to back off. We're going to do minus to move backwards. And if you can see the ants, it's going on the outside, right? Because we've only selected not her, but the outside of her. And we want to select her, because we're going to be manipulating her. So we can do that by Shift-Command-I. Now you can see that the ants are just selecting her. To isolate her even more, we can do Command-J, which will copy her on her own layer. And this, I want to show you that we can quickly manipulate this by adding her in front, create the illusion that she's in front of this pattern, and we haven't even masked anything, right? All we've done is cut something out. We wanted to mask something, select her head now. Now that we have her isolated and we want her to peek out, what we want to do is we now want to get rid of the rest of this. And I think we can just brush it out very quickly. So we're going to use and add a layer mask. Make sure you're on the one that was just cut out. And we're going to click and add a new layer mask. See how it's white? You can see the person here. So we know that this white means you can see it's not masking anything. It's not hiding anything. It's when you start using black, you make sure it's 100% black, that's when you start masking the image. So if I want to get rid of her jacket, arms and legs, I can do that by masking her. So I can go to a brush, and remember you can go up to brushes. You want to keep it a little soft, and we want it to be medium sized just because we don't know how quickly we want to cut into this. So this part down here, I usually kind of get as close as I can, kind of a sloppy brush move through. And then if I need to, I can do the 2 brackets and get larger to make sure that the mask is completely masked. All right, so I still want to go, I believe, and get some detail off of her jacket. So I just want to increase the size. So I'm going to get off of the paintbrush And I'm going to move back on to the plus and minus. And you can see that there's a little tone right here that I missed. So we'll go back to the paintbrush. We're still getting rid of it, so we're using black. And I'm going to want to reduce the size. And if you see, you can see that circle there. That's the size that it's at. And I want to get in pretty tight. So let's make sure we're at around 70, it looks like. And I know that because I'm looking up here at my paintbrush. Take your time, make sure you get all of this out. And if you make a mistake, it's an easy X. And watch when I hit X. It's rotating it back and forth. So now white's on top, and I can come back and clean that neck. And if I need to get closer, remember plus, you get closer, go larger to clean up the scraps on the outside. So we have her head now floating. We now have the pattern that she's sitting on top. So it looks like, right now it kind of looks like she's coming out of the wallpaper. But if we bring her back in, we might be able to just add some other effects on this to make it look like she's kind of actually being wrapped in that paper. So what I did was I went to the one where you can see there's the mask, but the actual real image is still there. If I click on this, right click, I can disable the mask and you can see that that image is still there. Remember, the whole point in Photoshop is that you really don't want to edit things away. I still have my original image here. Otherwise, I could have just masked this whole thing out and never deleted anything. I can always go back and select anything that's still there. Command, and see how this little ant box came up with the little hand? That allows me to select anything in that layer. So I'm going to grab it by doing Command, and I'm going to select, but I want to reverse it because I want to keep the background and not select it. So I'm going to do Shift Command I, and now you can see the ants are now dancing around her. I'm going to go to pattern now, and I'm going to do mask. So when I have the mask off on the layer, you can't see that anything's cut out. If I enable it, you can see now she's masked out her jacket. And then if I enable just her head, you can't see anything yet because we still just have the whole jacket masked out. But what I can do now is I'm going to affect the mask on her jacket, just to kind of get some sort of effect of, darker, lighter in front, darker on the sides. So what I can do is I can change the opacity to like 50, and I can kind of start bringing the image back. And I want white to do that. And I'm going to make it really big because I just want to kind of create an effect. And I would have to play with it a lot more to make one side darker and the other side lighter. So it looks like she's starting to come out. So there's a lot of things you can do when you start learning how to manipulate masks. So you can see that she looks like she's part of that space inside the pattern. The next one, we have a man with his hands in his face, and then I have a very floral pattern. What I did first is I just took the magic tool and tried to select as much as I could of the black. So I'm just selecting pretty much everything that's not black. And I'm going to now make a mask. And now you can see that you can still see his arm and his hair and his sleeves, but it's not defined enough. We need to bring back more of the person so that people can see that it's actually a person. It's too hard to read what it is. So I'm going to go back to the mask, and I'm going to use white, right? Because I want to bring back some of that black, some of the details that we're missing. I'm going to go right into the center, but before I do that, I'm going to make sure that this is at the highest and this is at the softest. And we'll start at a medium opacity, like 70. And I'm just going to click right on the top of his head. And what I'm doing is I'm just trying to get it so we can start seeing a person and kind of blending it back and forth to see where we can get it to look really interesting, like he's covered in this pattern, like it's affecting his mind. So I just kind of keep going back and forth, white and black, until I feel like I'm getting this kind of unique blend of the pattern and the... So I selected first all the black, I reversed it, and then I made a mask. The last one I have 3 images, a sky, a man yelling, and some like club lights. And I'm gonna kind of combine all 3 of them together to make a unique image. Select the head. So I want to make sure the head's on, and I'm going to go, I always try to go for the easiest first. I can see this background is all white. It might be easier to capture that first. So let's select it. And then remember, you might have to go to the quick because we're not getting all of it. So again, you just quickly paint in around the edges to get all those little dots out. All right, and when you think you've got it all, let's do that reverse. So Shift Command I. So now he's just selected, and let's put him in a mask. So this is now seen right behind him. So I want to mask this in with his head. So I already have that mask. So remember, you can do Command, and you can see that ant box around the hand. And I can go to the clouds, and I can hit mask. And you can see that it's selected just his head. So right now we should see the head masked and then the background. And the next trick is like, how do you start blending them together so that you get a little bit of these 2 mixing? Play around back and forth again. And I would probably stay with paintbrushes at this time. Gotta remember what you're doing. So if I make sure this is completely black, none of that image will come through. And now we can get that bright original color of his mouth. All right, recap. We have this dynamic image. Maybe it's part of a sci-fi book. I'm very into sci-fi. This one is kind of a memory image. Someone is thinking about flowers and garden. And then the final is a woman coming through the wall of the wallpaper.